So I did end up breaking it up into 3 videos because it's such a long story. I had to break it up for a second. I had to stop for a second anyway, but hey, that was God's way of breaking it up in 3 videos, and I thought it was a good climax. They're arriving at Herod's, and Herod is in such a... He has no idea what's going on. You have to understand, there's a lot of events going on. There's a lot of things forming around in his head as what this could possibly be. First of all, he is a governor, but he's a king for the area. He's the king of the province. That's how the people see him, because he has power over life and death. So he might as well be considered a king. Like, he decides if you live or die. The only thing he really can't do, that he has to get authority from above, is to get a larger army than he already has to do campaigns. So if he wants to do a campaign of expanding the empire or something for Rome, then he has to get authority from above, who will probably send their own generals and stuff in order to get the additional resources and man to do that. So he is a king, but a local king. And he hasn't been in power very, very long. He helped build the Second Temple, but he has not been in power very long, so he could very well think they're there for him. And that's one of the possibilities of what he's thinking. I mean, could be many things floating around. Secondly, they're in the middle of a census right now. They're actually not in the middle of it. They're towards the end of the census. So this could very well be a far-off province, for some reason, coming to him as a delegation to be going to Rome or something, coming for taxation or for giving gifts to Rome. He has no idea. He might just be an intermediary between this far-off region and Rome. And it's just an arriving party. So he's got also what the people are saying, that hey, there's a king these people have been saying all over town that is supposed to be born, and they're looking for him. So we brought him to you guys because we have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, so all these things going on. These guys show up, and there's like again a small army. They show up at Herod's door, and Herod receives them in, and he asks, what are you doing? And this is what I love so much. These men are so honest and pure. Wise. They're so honest and pure. And you could put it on maybe ignorance. I don't know. I don't think necessarily it was ignorance. Maybe some naivete. some naiveness, I guess, going on there. But I think they were pretty wise. So when Herod asks, why are you here? They straight up what they've been telling everybody in the city. Look, we've been following the sign from the Far East. We followed it here so far. We're looking for the one who's supposed to be born king of the Jews. Now, the fact they signify that clearly shows that they do not understand the Roman doctrine that there is only one emperor, Caesar. So, and Jews are, you're distincting against the Roman Empire to begin with, and Rome is in charge of Israel. So now you're telling them directly that a person other than the Roman Empire is going to take a throne from Rome, because he's going to take territory that Rome already owns. That's part of his kingdom, is what you're saying. And they very clearly just say, we follow the star in the east from here. We're looking for the one who's supposed to be born king of the Jews, that we may come and worship him. And we, apparently we've asked, and they brought us to you. So can you tell us where to go to worship him? Now this is where Herod, slap of reality right in the face for Herod, because now he knows that definitely whatever goods they brought are not for him or for the Roman Empire at all. They're definitely for someone, and definitely for someone who is these men are breaking the law right now. They're not, because they're not Roman citizens. They're diplomatic embassy, so he does have to treat them as such, because Rome does have rules. It's odd how many rules that Rome had, considering how barbaric and savage they could be in certain things. But this was one of their rules. They did have protocols for diplomatic parties, and this was a diplomatic party, and Herod had to know he did not have enough resources at hand to take on the small army that was at his gates right now. Even the small army was peaceful, so if he decided he was for Rome going to just immediately arrest these men, that was probably not going to work, and definitely create what could potentially be a war, and that he would be the one blamed for starting a war between Rome and this kingdom. So it wasn't in his best interest to arrest these men either. He's stuck in quite a conundrum. As a Roman citizen, as a governor of Rome, as a king of Rome, a prince of Rome, so to speak, to the emperor, he is to completely squash any type of rebellion or any type of thing against Rome. And here you are telling him a king is to be born, and you've come to worship that king, and you're wondering where he is, and no one seems to know. So what is Herod to do? Herod, he practices Rome all right. Rome from Romulus and Remus, the two young baby wolves. It's a long, old, ancient Latin tradition thing. I can't even get to that as a rabbit hole right now, but it deals with deception. It's all about deception, underhandedness, and slyness and stuff. So, and Herod really kind of does it to a T right here. I guess he would do the Roman emperor proud in this practice right here. So what Herod decides to do is say, okay, look, first of all, before I even get into this, I need to call some people because we got to make sure this is right. This is what's going on. So now Herod starts to think. Herod does something the people in the street didn't think was a wise thing to do. Like, these guys are talking about a Jewish law, custom, tradition thing. Why didn't they take them to the temple? They brought them to me, a Roman. It's very weird that they brought them to me first. I mean, it's mandatory by law, but it's very weird that they didn't even think to consult. Herod has to call the chief priest and scribe to say, hey, is there a king of the Jews? Is there someone who's supposed to be born king of the Jews? Because we're going to need to handle that if that's so. And now, of course, the Jews, they don't want to have any part of this. The Jews have, first of all, they have no idea what's going on. They have a hope of a king to be born one day. There's prophecies about it, yeah, but they don't think it's anytime soon. Like, they're not like rightly looking around the corner for anything to happen. They're just kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like part of our mysticism at this point because we've been under Roman occupation for so long. We've been in slavery for so long. We don't even know what's going on anymore. We've pretty much just given up on this whole idea of Messiah. You know, I mean, last time we got freed was out of Egypt, basically. That was thousands of years ago at this point. We spent 400 years just in Babylon alone, man. 400 years in Egypt, man. It's been terrible. Now we're in a Roman, like maybe one day a king will be born. Yeah, right? Maybe. That's what we keep thinking for. Maybe one day the Minnesota Vikings will win a Super Bowl. Maybe. I don't know. Like, that's the kind of thing they're into right now. They're like, look, we have no idea who these guys are to begin with. They're from a far, far different country, as you can clearly see. They're not Hebrew. They're not part of our religion, as far as we know. We don't acknowledge them as being Jewish men. They're wise men from the East. Like, they're so they claim to be following our God, but we don't have any direct knowledge of what they're talking about, and we can give you some vague references in our Old Testament, what we would call the Old Testament, in theirs it would be called the Torah. So yeah, we're telling them that the Messiah would be born one day, and it would be like, well, we think, the city of Bethlehem is what we're thinking, the city of David. Is where the prophecy basically says, but here's the problem, King. We're under census right now. Like, there's people everywhere. This isn't like the millennial where you're all tracked by the government already, like on the computer and stuff. Like, this is back in 2 BC, where so such thing as computers or social media or anything. If you live more than 45 miles away from each other, you'll probably never see each other in your entire lifetime or talk ever. That's how close you could be to somebody and never even talk to them, even though how sparsely populated everything was. So, they're like, there's people traveling all over the place. Even if we wanted to, even if we went to Bethlehem, because that's where the sign is, it wouldn't make sense to do it right now because those people probably won't be in Bethlehem. They'll probably be in the country of their birth, or the origin of their birth, which could be any other city. Or that means that if he's being born or has just been born now, their family has already probably left that city to go back to the city of their home. That means he was born in transit. We don't even know what city they came from necessarily to sign up for the census. We just know that they claim to be from that city because it's the city of their birth. So they could potentially be there, but they could also be in another city because they have to go to the city of their birth to do the census, and that's still happening right now. We're at the end of it. Most people have made records, King Herod, but we don't actually have those yet. The runners haven't come back or anything with that. We're still waiting on results to come in and stuff. We're still counting the money. This is the advice Herod has been given. First of all, he's got the Pharisees and scribes and the high priest and everything of the actual Jewish religion disavowing these three wise men and saying that they're not officially Jewish or anything. We don't recognize them as part of our religion, so you can't hold this to our account. For one, of what they're saying, we're not part of this treason thing you got going on, and two, whatever references we do have in our holy texts don't give any kind of date or anything like that. We should be expecting this. We don't even know what these signs are necessarily these men are talking about. We have references to Bethlehem, but again, we're under census right now, so they could be anywhere. They could have traveled to Bethlehem, had the baby, which is exactly what happened, and be back in their city by now, or they could be living in Bethlehem, or we have no idea. So King Herod takes the advice and he thinks about it, and he's like, okay. And again, this is where the slyness comes in. He has to find a way to find this king. If the king exists, he has to find a way to find it and get rid of this situation. Because then he can report that back to Rome. That's a great thing. He squashed an uprising before it could happen. He didn't have to spend any money on it, and he can gloat about it all he wants. He can make it as big of a thing as he wanted for the glory of Rome, right? So how is he going to do that? He goes back to the wise men and he says, okay, look, we don't have any more information to give you. I just talked to the chief priests and scribes, and they're here with me now. And they've given some references to Bethlehem, which is the birthplace of King David, and the Messiah to come is the house of David. So this would be most likely where he would have been born. So we can point you in that direction, saying that's where you want to go, but we don't have any more information beyond that. So if you would like, what we would really like to do is, we are just as intrigued in this as you are. Like, this is great news you've brought to us. So please, if you would, when you get to Bethlehem, please find this Messiah, this King of the Jews, and when you have finished worshiping him, come and get us, that we may come and worship too. And the wise men were like, yeah, hey, that's really cool. The wise men were like, we have been talking to all these people in the streets all day, for maybe a few days now. I don't even know how long they were in the streets of Jerusalem looking for these guys, or in Judea looking for these guys to get to King Herod. But they were out there for a while, in order for the city to get uproar and brought there. And this is the first person who's really like, okay, well, I'm going to help you, and I want you to find this king, and when you find this king, I want to come and worship too. So, I'm going to speed you along your way on your journey, give you my blessing to go as quickly as possible, and say this is the best direction we can give you to start your, to restart your quest, hopefully, and you can let us know when it's done, and we will all go and worship together when you guys are done. And wise men are like, yeah, that's absolutely what we want to do. We want to do that. So they head out. Small army gone in peace from a very dangerous situation, which should have been high treason and arrested. If it was 3 guys showing up with a bunch of gold, frankincense, and myrrh and went to King Herod, they would not have been walking out of there with that gold, frankincense, and myrrh, and probably their lives. That would have been King Herod's from then on, and they would have never been heard of again. Like, that is one time a small army of men just protected these wise men from a naive situation. Because Herod did not tell him about Rome. He did not tell him he was a Roman king. He did distinguish separation between the Jews and himself, but he did not distinguish that Rome is a big no-no on rival kings, and they do not accept that at all, especially born in their kingdoms and taking away part of the kingdom. So he did not express that at all to the wise men, and he sent them on their way kindly. And they left, and they went to Bethlehem. Now, again, this is where I want to get to the point where the wise men did not show up and see Mary and Joseph and stuff at the manger, for a couple reasons. One, if they would have gotten there before or when Jesus was born, in order to move him back with, again, all the people and stuff they have, and the pregnant woman and all, along with sitting runners, there just wouldn't be enough time for them to make the escape, because escape is possible. Escape is not possible, it's necessary. It's what's going to happen. And we're going to go over it in a few minutes. But they wouldn't have had time for that because of the distance between the two, and how runners work, how quickly runners travel, because it is a diplomatic party, and they have just created diplomatic ties with Rome, whether they know it or not. They've just created one of the first recorded, it's even in Rome that is recorded that these men came and had this, because it's even recorded of what happens in just a few minutes to prove the strength of Rome, to prove how Rome really is. That's why I said, if you want to see how Rome really is, this is how you're going to see how Rome really is in the world. I'll leave it there, but we're going to stop here for just a second, and then we're coming back. The men are going to Bethlehem, and they did not see Mary and Joseph there at the manger with the baby Jesus, but they're going to Bethlehem right now.